Good evening, everyone. Welcome to a whole new year of the Outer Realm with myself, Michelle Desrochers, minus my bubbly companion, Amelia Pisano. She will be back, hopefully next week. Woo! So we are broadcasting live here on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 in the beautiful city of New Orleans. Want to remind you all to pop on over to YouTube, stop by the United Public Radio Network, and show us some love. Give us a subscribe, and feel free to do the same on UFO Paranormal Radio also. We do have two channels that you can both enjoy. So while you're there, please join us in the chat room this evening, again on the United Public Radio Network. Don't get all confused. And while you're at it, stop by the Outer Realm page on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and wherever you can find us, drop us a line. We always love to hear from you. So, wow, in the news, guys, you guys don't mess around in the US, do you? You just want to jump right into 2021 like with a body bang. What is going on in Washington? My gosh, it's sheer chaos. But I don't want to dwell on it too much. I'm sure you guys are seeing it all over the place. But my thoughts do go out to all of our, friends, family, and neighbors south of the border here, especially those of you in Washington. And condolences to the lady that was shot. Despite what the reasons are or who did what, it's not something that you want to see. It's just, it sucks. This is 2021, supposed to be a year of change. We're supposed to be trying to, get on and get forward, enough, no more. So, with that being said, tonight we have a really awesome guest on, and I got an email from this guy and I'm thinking, wow, like he's so intriguing. He's so knowledgeable and he really does have a lot to talk about. I think it's going to be a bit mind blowing for some of you. In fact, it was so much so for me that I basically went in and decided, I think I need to book this guy a couple more times. So he is going to be coming on at least 3 times with us. And I am looking to see if we are live. Bear with me. Here we are. Okay, there we are. Shady D, hello. Nice to see you in the chat. Hi, hi. Stressful time. We need to move forward, not backwards. Yes, I agree 100%. And I think tonight's just going to be just the show to do it. It's going to be fabulous. And I'm thinking that our guest is waiting. So give me one sec because I don't want him to panic. Okay, the station will be calling you in 5 minutes. There we go. So, all right. Now you have my undivided attention. So a little bit about our guest. He's got a resume that's just like colossal. He's got a lot of information. I did post his website link on the Outer Realm page. Please go click on it, peruse it, because there's so much information there that there's no way we're going to cover it all. I don't even know if we're going to cover it all in the 3 segments that we have him booked. It's just that much information. So his name, of course, our mystery guest is Pane Andov. I'm hoping I'm saying that correctly. Australian citizen, born in Macedonia in 1980 during a walk with his older brother, and I hope I say this right, Milans. Their life took an unusual turn after experiencing a very unexpected close encounter. They were both very mesmerized by the sight of an approaching alien flying craft, emanating strong yellow, orange, and red pulsating light. After getting within distance of less than 50 meters, the object released a very powerful flash of light. In a few seconds, they both realized that somehow they had been teleported inside the craft. So he was not hurt in any way by the alien beings, but they did run some tests, and the tests came back satisfactory. They incited a procedure that increased brain capacity. The entire Close Encounter of the Fourth Kind is published in Volume 3 of the Awakening series. So this is something, like I said, if you go onto his website, you can go in and find all kinds of information. So while I have you, I'm going to go on. I just been messaged, and I guess somebody's looking for the link to the show, the live link. So please bear with me. I am going to go in right now, and I'm going to share this up on my personal page also. Let me make it public so everyone can see. I'm going to try and tag Pane in here. I don't know what it is, but Facebook just does not let us tag anymore. So I do apologize. I cannot tag you, but you can find it on my personal page, so your people can find it also. So apologies again, guys. Okay, so I'm just going to wait for Joe to bring our guest on. In the meantime, if you have any questions, again, the chat room is going to be on the YouTube United Public Radio Network account. That's where you can respond to, any comments that Pane makes. You can communicate. I will relay your questions. I will relay your comments, but please bear in mind that my first priority is, of course, interacting with the guest, and I will get to them as soon as I can. I will not ignore you in any way, shape, or form. So there you are. Hi, are you coming on video?
No. I'll just stay with the audio because I'm at the bedroom.
Oh,
So
okay.
Is that gonna be okay? Or?
No, of course, no problem. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. Looking forward to Michelle. I had a radio interview 2 days ago, so it's a bit close, but we're gonna cover different topics. We make it even more interesting. So.
No, I like it. There's a lot of people listening, so I'm sure it's going to be quite exciting. We've had a lot of people, stopping by and having a look at your page, etc. So thank you for joining me tonight. I've been looking forward to the interview. I've been reading up a little bit on your website with the different things that you have going on. And I'm glad that we've booked you a few times because I don't even think that's going to do it to cover everything.
Yeah, you're most welcome. It's really a pleasure, Michelle.
Thank you.
So different topics. So where you want to go around in this first one?
Well, I always start off my segments with what I call humble beginnings. So I guess that would be your introduction into this new world, this experience. Where did it all start for you?
Sounds good. No problem. So I will share with the audience.
Thank you.
About my first contacts. What I have learned, what has been shown to me, and then we will take it further.
The stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. I will touch base, if it's okay with you, about alien implants, the alien abductions, astral plane, orbs, and many things. And feel free to engage as much as you can, And,
absolutely. I'll keep up, I promise.
So it will be okay. So we are starting in 15, something like that, Michelle, right?
Yep. Exactly. So the live link is posted on my personal Facebook profile, so you can share it up from there. It would not let me tag you, unfortunately, so you can share it from there for your fans.
Okay, just give me a moment to just jump in. So how long do we have? Look, I will switch the video just for now, and then I will switch it off.
Yeah, no problem. We've got a couple of hours, so you're okay.
All right, so we're talking about 2 hours plus, or
no, we should be anywhere from an hour and 45 or an hour and a half to hour and 45 to 2 hours. If it goes over a few minutes, that's okay.
Cool. Look, let me know when we are, let's say, 5 minutes before each break, so I will have a sense, because I can keep on going.
Yeah, there won't be a break. The Wednesday show doesn't have a break, so you can go on. You can discuss at will, and I will intervene with questions here and there, and you can just speak as you'd like to get the information out. I may intervene with questions or comments from chat also. So for now, it's all yours.
Sounds really good. So just give me a sec to find the link.
Yep. If you go on my
Just
personal page, you'll find it. And for those who want to go to the United Public Radio Network website and just click on the YouTube page, it will also bring you right here to the live show.
I already shared that one. So
Good.
I'm here at Michelle Desrochers
That's right. Just go down into the
correctly?
stream. It should be the first one.
All right. So we have Canada Most Haunted, Humble Michelle. All right. So
all the way down, and yep, it's right there.
Okay, got it. Live link to watch, listen now on YouTube, right?
That's right.
All right, just bear with me.
Sure.
Okay. And paste it on my page. Just bear with me. Okay. That's it. Beautiful. Thank you so much for that, Michelle. I appreciate. I think that many of my circle people, you know.
Oh, of course, my pleasure.
They will enjoy. All right, so bear with me. Okay, so where is the video? Turn video off. Cool. So, any particular areas that you want to avoid or something? Or?
I'd like to just start off with, let's say, the beginning. You know, okay. what got you on the path here to this incredible journey of yours?
Sounds really good. Look, as mentioned, you know, whenever you are free, Michelle, if you like, let me know, and we can sit on Skype.
Absolutely.
And I will share some of my understanding and some techniques that you can give it a go. Maybe it will help out. That's all that I'm saying, you know, because you said that you are channeling yourself, you know, receiving information, and might help. It will be my pleasure, you know. So
thank you. I will take you up on that. Absolutely.
No problem at all. And then further down, hopefully in May and then in September, we can touch base on nation civilizations and other things. We will still mention even today, you know, but
there's all kinds of stuff. You're a wealth of information. So So why don't we we'll start with I guess how you got started on this, your experience, what happened? I mean, I'm sure you weren't born on, well, maybe you were born on a craft. I don't know, but why don't you just lead us into it?
Absolutely, will do. So we have around 11 minutes, something like that, 11, 12 minutes to go, right?
No, we've got a lot of time. You can go, just get started. Lots of time.
Yeah. But the show officially starts in.
Well, we've been started. We've been live now for about
okay.
5 minutes.
All right, beautiful.
Yeah.
So okay, the journey for me started when I was very, very young, 7 years of age, which is 90, 80, almost 40 years ago. And I was born in Skopje in Macedonia, which is in Balkan Peninsula. And at the time, I was living with my mother and my brother. Brother was more into the philosophy of life, but he was also very keen into training martial arts. And from time to time, he was going very close to our neighborhood, you know, where there is like one river, which is called Vardar River, to train the martial arts. And occasionally he was taking me with him. We were 14 years of age, a bit of a difference, so to speak. But one evening, nothing particular special, so to speak. You know, the night was crystal clear, and there was a full moon. We were just walking, you know, to the area where my brother was usually training, and then I spotted that next to the full moon there is another circular object, very similar to the size of the moon. And as a 7-year-old kid, I just asked my brother, his name was Mickey Milanche. Mickey, how can there be two moons? And when I didn't got any response after a couple of seconds, I turned towards him and I saw that he was just literally staring with his mouth open, into the object that was emanating orange, yellow, and red light. And when I turned back again towards the object, I saw that it moved rapidly and increased the speed. It actually approached around 50 meters away from us, and I was able to see the glowing surface. It was like a glowing plasma of fire, so to speak, that was like created. It was like alive. It was like controlled by artificial alien intelligence, so to speak. And in the next second or two, there was a huge white flash, like poof, and everything around me became completely white. The first thing that I experienced was difficulty of breathing. I couldn't take the breath properly, and I felt weightless. And as I was literally experienced that, after a couple of seconds, I started to realize that the whiteness in one area is fading away, and there is like an opening where a couple of silhouettes are standing and looking at us. And as the whiteness started to clear up a bit more, I noticed that those silhouettes were not human at all. And you can just imagine the excitement, and the fear, if you will, of a little child, looking at beings that
Absolutely.
don't look human, if you will, Immediately they established a contact, and I heard the voice in Macedonian language in my head, and they said that not to be afraid, that they are not here to hurt us. And as I was actually pulled towards the craft, one of the beings gave me the hand, and I noticed that there are only 4 fingers. The entire appearance was, they were smaller size, than the average human. The head was bigger, and the eyes were far more larger. It was like black, and then sometimes changing to neon blue and neon white, and sometimes even neon green, depending of what exactly they are doing with their consciousness, something which I will explain as we go.
Oh, interesting.
And as they have took me through a passageway, I noticed that everything inside the craft, usually when people have abduction scenarios, they have a very, very a faint memory of the alien craft inside, just bits and pieces. But everything that it was happening to me, I remember clear as a day. The entire surface of the structure was like a plastic type of material, which had like a rainbow dance of light, and the windows were completely dark, what it seems to be glass, but it wasn't glass, and everything was run by nanotechnology. There was nothing that I could see that was like we have hardware and software, so to speak, but there are always like a holographic stuff what the beings were doing. There was like algorithms and alien language that was everywhere. And as I was taken through the passageway, I lost the sense of my brother, which means we went separated. And then one of the beings mentioned that they will have to do certain tests in order to be sure. And it waved the hand, and there was like a levitating platform that appeared out of the blue, so to speak. And they said, please slide down on the platform. As soon as I lie down on the platform, they gathered around me, and one of the creatures literally looked up towards the ceiling. The moment it looked up, there was a source of light that came out of it, and there were like beams of light that started literally going on the top of my skin. So as the surface of the skin was scanned, I didn't feel any sharp pain or anything, but it was more like a sensations or like a cold or warm sensations, if you will. And as they were scanning, I realized in the later years that they were practically scanning the DNA database. In other words, we are immaterial living forms. What we call soul is not sufficient enough to explain how complex we are. We are immaterial living form, which is living in 7-dimensional universe, out of which all those 7 dimensions have different density and different speed of vibration. And we have a body that can actually provide us stay and expression in any of those dimensions. So to get to the point, as we move from one incarnation to another, part of the experience that we generate during the journey stays stored into the database of the immaterial DNA, which whenever this life force of ours jumps into the next body, it keeps in a certain way. So the extraterrestrial had the technology using particular frequency ranges to literally access the data where I was about 10,000 years ago, 50,000 years ago, and prior. And they wanted to know what exactly my path was and what my aspirations were. And they were happy with what they have found. The sensations on the skin stopped, and then they started to reappear on the right side of my head, on the right hemisphere. And that's where it started to burn a bit. What they were practically doing, they were rewriting my brain, and they were putting something which, with our limited understanding, we call alien implant. The moment that they have put, there are different types of alien implant. Ones are metallic, other ones are non-metallic, and there are also biological ones. So they have actually integrated a biological implant into the right part of my hemisphere. The moment that they have done that, I was able to hear their voices in my head far more clearly. And they said that they have done something to me in order for me to experience certain things. And the experience of those things will teach me in time how those things work. And then I will be able to pass to the other people. They said that I will be playing a major part into the awakening process of humanity, and they are very, very glad that they have found me before the others did. I didn't
The
know
others.
I didn't know who the others are at the
Right.
time, you know.
Right.
But now it's crystal clear, because this solar system, unfortunately, we have a presence of also negative extraterrestrial beings that are here for a very, very long time, which I will also elaborate upon. The next time that the next thing that took place, as soon as I actually stand up from the platform, they said that now that they will be taking me home. And just to make the entire experience more smooth for me, they made the entire, floor completely transparent, and I was able to see how the UFO was moving above the Vodno mountain, which is the biggest mountain in Skopje, and going towards the suburb where I was living at the time. As we approach the neighborhood around a couple of 100 meters above the house where I was living at the time, there was another white flash that appeared. And again, the same process that I have experienced at the beginning, difficulty of breathing and weightlessness. And the next thing that I noticed, I found myself on the bed. The first thing that took place in that came to my mind was what happened to my brother. I jumped out of the bed, start running, and as soon as I enter his room, he was literally shaking, and there was a blood coming from his right nostril opening. And obviously, they also did the test, but the test to him, but he didn't pass the test. My mother woke up; she was asleep because we were evening time when we were missing about 2.5 hours or so.
Wow.
And she went into the room. When she saw my brother, she freaked out. She started screaming, and another thing which was very, very unusual to her is that she was completely positive that she locked the door, when we left. And that was the only entrance. And she said, how the heck did you guys went into the house? and my brother was shaking really, really badly. And she wanted to call the police or the family or someone, for help. Luckily, my brother calmed down, after 10, 15 minutes. And she asked him what happened. And the only thing that he could remember that we were walking on the river, and next to the full moon, there was a very bright object. And that's all that he had in his memory. All the rest was just a missing time. Me, on the other hand, I remembered everything clearly. And I started to speak about it to my mother, and she looked at me, and she didn't like what she was hearing. Luckily, my brother got to himself, soon, and he convinced her not to call the police or the family, because in 1980 to speak about extraterrestrials, and encounters, it's a big risk. It was a very, very big risk,
Yes.
But the action started next day. I woke up and I started to feel very strange. I started to hear voices in my head, and it turned out very quickly that those voices are the thoughts of my mother or my brother or the friends around. In other words, they increase the brain capacity and certain areas of the brain that humans rarely use nowadays. Another thing which was very unfamiliar to me, that every time when I was passing through certain, let's say, furniture that had sharp edges, I felt that something is cutting me without even touching it physically. The sensitivity of the auric field was increased to such a level that it was unreal for me. And sometimes before I touched the pan started to vibrate and shake, if you know what I mean.
Yes, yes.
And but the most incredible thing happened the next night. As I went to sleep, in the middle of the night, I awoke, and as soon as I went into the awakened state, I realized that something is not right. I started to hear a very huge noise in my ears.
Was it like a humming? What kind of noise?
Yeah, it's like a buzzing sound, very similar. It was changing, because
I get it all the time.
It was like a sleeping paralysis state where you can't move physically. Sometimes people report hum sounds, sometimes strange noise, sometimes buzzing sound, and similar effects. And as soon as that state occurred, I noticed that like gravity is off, and I started, levitating up, and I started to see the bedroom, from like a 1 meter, where I'm usually sleeping. And then when I turned around, I saw myself sleeping down on the bed. And that freaked me out. I didn't know what to make of it at that particular time. But in later years, I learned that people call that astral projection.
Yes.
And that ended. And then a couple of more times I got scared, but I finally managed to pass through the ceiling. As I passed through the ceiling, I noticed the entire neighborhood, from the bird perspective, if you will, And it was quite remarkable that there was like a white orb of light that was about 50 meters away from me, that was always watching what I was doing. It's like a kind of like a babysitting me, if you know what I mean. And I didn't engage into astral flying like most of the astral travelers do in their first astral projection or so, because I didn't know how to operate, but I was doing big jumps, like a 10, 15, 20 meters jumps from one roof to another and so on and so forth, but it was very fun for me as a child. But the effect, what I'm trying to say, that they induced as the result of the encounter lasted for a couple of weeks. And ended with the incident. In which sense? One evening before we went to sleep, because in Macedonia in that time of the year, it can get very, very cold. Sometimes like 10 degrees, 15 degrees minus Celsius, And my mother used to use an electric blanket that we bought at the time, from Germany. You put it into the mains and it warms out the bed in 10-15 minutes, and it's far more different,
Yes.
And she put it on for me, and in the same time the phone rings and the neighbor is saying, "Can you come here for a coffee? Can you come over for a coffee?" And she said, "Okay, fine." And she told me, "Pane, look, let's go, to the neighbors." And that's how it happened. But she forgot to turn off the electric blanket. And as we went there, she's having a chat, enjoying herself, and I'm playing with the neighbors' kids. And then, as it happens, I'm starting to see multidimensional. As I'm seeing the friends, and the toys that we are playing, I'm starting to see that the house that we are living, it's on fire. And then it disappeared after 15, 20, 30 seconds. It reappeared again and it started to really, really rapidly bothering me. And it came to the point that I had no choice but to approach my mother and tell her, "Look, Mom, something is wrong. I think that the house is on fire."
Wow.
And she ignored me and she started laughing, and she pushed me away, But after a few minutes, the thing that I was seeing, everything was more the smoke and the fire of the bedroom where I was sleeping than anything else. And I went back and I started making a scene, and it ended up luckily that the neighbor said, "Look, let's check it out. It's not far away, And after 50 meters of walking, as soon as we get to the point that we can see the house, there was a huge smoke coming from the house. And my mother started freaking out, and luckily all the neighbors from the surrounding, they come with the buckets of water and they put the fire down before it reached the electrical installation and burned the house to the ground, if you will.
Right.
And the police came, and you know how it goes when everything calmed down and all the neighbors went back home, and she started really, really yelling at me, and she said, "What the heck got into you? How are you able to do this? Tomorrow I will be taking you to a hospital, to a surgery, just to see what's wrong with you." And she really scared the hell out of me. And that's where I withdraw the force that was growing rapidly in me. And nothing particularly interesting happened for the next 7 years or so.
Right, so you basically shut down for a little while.
Exactly. And then after that period, we traveled from Macedonia to Croatia, to the birthplace of my mother, that it's called Lepoglava. It's about 200 km from Zagreb in Croatia. And my uncle, on the other hand, he was very into the Tibetan Buddhism, into yoga, Tai Chi, all that kind of stuff. And he shared with me, "Look, take a look, gave me some books, and I started reading, about the Indian yogis, how they were able to physically levitate and that kind of stuff. But one particular thing, caught my intention so strong. It was astral projection. The book was telling about ability that a human person can achieve by entering a special kind of trance, if you will, or eventually other times through dream control, that the consciousness can separate from the physical body and take a journey into the immaterial plane of existence, if you will."
And I have one quick question about that before we go too far past astral projection. We have somebody in the chat room who's saying, "Have you ever felt like you've jumped a timeline?"
In the astral projection, or eventually in the contact with the extraterrestrials?
Shady Linda, which one do you mean? Jumped. I'm just waiting for her to respond. Jumped a timeline while he's astral, or
because when the contacts were progressing, especially in 2007, 2008, I communicated in far more profound way, and they have shown me the ancient history, the forgotten history, of planet Earth, so things which are far back in time, something which also I will touch base.
Yeah, we'll touch base. I'll let you. Okay, yeah. She says with ET. Have you ever felt like you jumped a
Yes,
timeline with
yes,
ET?
I
Yes.
hear. I'm getting there as soon as we get to that
Okay.
part. I'll
We'll let you
let you
keep
know.
going.
No problem at
She's
all.
one step ahead of you, I think.
That's it. That's it. Appreciate the question.
Okay.
So, what what I did next, as soon as I assimilate all the theoretical input that I could assimilate, I jumped into training, and I was really, really pushing hard. I started with yoga nidra, just relaxing the entire physical body until it gets, to the point that the physical body, the magnetic pulling between the physical body and the astral body weakens to the point, that you can pull it out. And after that, I was visualizing a technique which is called seven symbol technique, which is described in my books, which you have to visualize a certain geometry in order to produce altered states of consciousness. And once when that was completed, it was pushing me to a vibrational state where I was almost out. It took me 12 months, around 1 year, to achieve the out body experience again. Something which I was doing frequently when I was taken, while I was 7. And it wasn't something spectacular, it was like a 15, 20, 25 seconds tops, but I separate from the body during the experience, and I saw my physical body lying on the bedroom, went through the wall, entered my brother's, room, passed by and did some flying, and that was about it. I saw, the neighborhood, from a bit of an angle. But for me, it was a huge push-up. And I start training more and more, more and more, more and more. And then eventually, the astral projections started to increase in length. They were from like a 15, 20 minutes to 40 minutes and so on and so forth. And when I introduced the training with ESP cards or the Zener cards, blindfold, I was pushing, Michelle, 7 hours per day.
Wow,
For
that's
months and
insanity.
months.
That's
That was
crazy.
really, really, really strong, And luckily, I had a huge circle of friends that they were helping, because as soon as I was sitting down on the chair and putting the blindfold, the cards, the targets, the colors, the numbers, the letters, they were all put behind me. And then eventually it get to the point after a year or so that I was able to read blindfold, and I was able to detect and read also from one room to another, and then from one apartment to another, just speaking by phone, and then we were testing from one country to another country, just
Excellent.
separating from a physical body, just flying there and seeing, But the contacts reappeared again. So this time the contacts were far more profound. I was far more mature to take it, so to speak. But also the negative ones came into the scene, and they were not very happy with what is happening. And my deepest desire was to fly off into space. But every time when I actually separated from the body, it was either to dream control or eventually through sleeping paralysis. Every time when I reached about 40 kilometers of altitude, I was just like pushing an invisible ceiling, and my astral projection cut off immediately. I was either waking up in the physical body immediately, or I was just levitating like a 20 centimeters and then slowly sinking in until I become one with the physical body. And I didn't know what to make of it. And then I asked the ETs, how come I can't reach space? And they explained to me that the vehicle that I'm using, they were referring as a vehicle, not as body as we are usually used to refer the astral body.
Right.
It's not compatible to pass through the invisible barrier because the planet itself, they mentioned, unfortunately, it's under quarantine. I said, what do you mean? And they said, go through and you will understand what we say. And how do I do that? I asked, and they said, look, the next time when you enter a sleeping paralysis, because what is sleeping paralysis? Probably the best thing to do, Michelle, is to explain, what sleeping paralysis is, because there are many views and understanding of what is happening.
I agree. I've done shows on it. It's happened to me a couple of times, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that.
You're
So
welcome.
we are consciousness. That's our true essence, and our consciousness moves from one body to another. We have 7 bodies or 7 vehicles. This physical body that we are having is the most densest one, and we are using it as a vehicle to express ourselves and to exist into this plane of existence. The next one is the so-called etheric body. It's a perfect duplicate with the physical body. It never departs the physical body unless in 2 cases. In case of what we call physical death, when the higher principles of the consciousness separate from the physical body and they move into the astral body or some higher vehicle, but the etheric body stays often very close to the physical body on the graveyard or similar, and decomposes itself over time in a similar fashion as the physical body does. It consists of 72,000 energetic channels or nadis, which are known in the ancient yoga tantric traditions, which are interconnected with the 77 centers, out of which 7 are primary, and they're positioned on the spinal cord area. So this is a half material, half immaterial body that is completely in tune with the nervous system, with the physical body. It plays a major role in our existence in so many ways. Without it, we will not be able to utilize this physical body, and the physical body will die because the energy practically in the auric field, it's running through the etheric field. So what I mean by that, every time when we go to sleep, we black out, the astral body goes out and collects energy which exists freely into the astral plane. Every time when the astral body goes back into the physical body, before it does that, it delivers this accumulated energy into the etheric body, and this etheric body converts the energy into biocompatible bioelectrical impulses, which are usually feeding the spinal cord and the brain. In other words, you can eat as much as you like, you can drink water as much as you like, but if you don't go to sleep for 4 days to 10 days, usually the story it's all over, because the process of recharging is necessary. This is all well described in my books. So what I'm trying to say is that the consciousness, which is our true essence, is literally desynchronizing and synchronizing with another vehicle when there is a transition. So what I mean by this, for example, if we enter a dreaming state, right? So everything goes. Sometimes, people have lucid dreaming, which the awareness is very high to some degree, but still the fundamental component it's missing is that we are inside the astral plane. And every time when there is an anomaly inside the dream, there is a possibility of a reality check. So, for example, when you notice something which doesn't make sense inside the dream, for example, you walk into the living room and then you see a grown tree in the living room. If your consciousness is completely numb, it will not recognize anything. The dream will continue as it is. But if the consciousness is a bit sensitive or awakened to some degree, so to speak, it will start to trigger a reality check, and you will say to yourself, look, I know every inch of my living room. What is this tree doing in my living room? And then it will click to you, oh, I understand, this is a dream. Right. So when that point comes, that reality check phase comes, there are certain things which can happen. certain scenarios. The first scenario, if the consciousness is untrained in astral projection, probably the entire experience will end with a physical awakening. Not much will happen, and probably in the next morning, he or she will not remember the dream at all. The other occurrence which can happen is split of consciousness. Usually it's on two, sometimes three parts, but usually on two, which means the consciousness is becoming divided. One part of the consciousness is still inside the dream, observing the tree in the living room, and the other part of the consciousness starts to feel on which side the physical body is positioned on the bed. Depending of which side is stronger, that will result with a different outcome. If the consciousness is not trained and doesn't know what is happening, usually the principles of the consciousness that are still inside the dream will be pulled back towards how you feel your physical body is positioned, and you will wake up physically. But if it's trained, the consciousness will move towards that part and you will achieve astral projection.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that can occur is the so-called sleeping paralysis. In other words, instead of staying in the dream, instead of waking up physically or experiencing split of consciousness, you are pushed back to the bed with full awareness. You have a full access to your memory bank, but after a couple of seconds, you are for an unpleasant surprise. You can't move, you can't speak, and on top of everything, quite often there is a very high pitch sound in your ears, hum sound, buzzing sound, noise, whatever you want to refer it, which is running. No one else can hear it, but you can hear it. And you start to feel energy waves, which are coming sometimes from the feet point. I have over 30,000 students worldwide, and many of them report the energy coming from the feet point going straight up towards the head. Other people report coming from the base of the spine and going straight up. In either case, what is happening is that once when you enter the sleeping paralysis, your Kundalini energy rises. And why you can't move? You can't move because the consciousness didn't return to the physical body. It returned to the etheric body. Because as mentioned, the etheric body is inside our physical body. It's a perfect energetic duplicate where all those energetic chakras and channels are interconnected, and it's tuned with the nervous system. And it's completely, you can feel the same position wherever you are. So from this point, usually there are two exits. One exit is if you don't want to experience out of body trouble, you just have to remain calm, because the panic is the first thing which kicks in, which most people freak out, and they use every available atom of energy to break free from the condition. So instead of fighting the condition, the easy way out is just embrace it, calm down, and the sound from like a, it will go like, as the sound, the level of the intensity of the sound decreases, as the energy level decreases, you will feel that you will be able to move your fingers again, you will be able to move your toes again, you'll be able to use your voice again. In other words, what happened is that the consciousness desynchronized with the etheric body and synchronized with the physical body again. And not much will practically happen, but you will wake up physically and you will continue as normal. On the other hand, if you want to achieve astral projection, you have to amplify the sound and the energy. In other words, as you open up towards the energy, you feel the force running through you, through the etheric body, and as soon as it gets to the point of your forehead, there is one particular point or center inside the right hemisphere. It's called the right angular gyrus, that has to have a power supply, if you will. As soon as the energy comes to that part of the brain, you just need to say, I want to astrally project. And the moment you say, the upper part of your astral body will go out, will separate, or eventually you will levitate straight, horizontal up. whatever the case is going to be, the sound will disappear and the energy will disappear. In other words, what will take place is that your consciousness will desynchronize with the etheric body, and it will synchronize with your astral body, if that makes any sense.
It makes a lot of sense. Some people fear astral projection. They feel that, we have an astral cord. You have to be careful that something is not going to sever that. They worry about what they're going to see on the other side. There's a lot of controversy with astral projection. Some people can do it very gracefully. Some people fall into it. They don't realize it. And then other people are just terrified of it. What do you say to people who have fear of it?
Absolutely. That's a great perspective. So let me put it this way. First of all, the astral cord doesn't exist.
Okay.
That was something that I was reading about, in all the esoteric literature, which I could get my hands on, and when I go even today and when I see the forums on Facebook about the astral projection, many are talking about the silver cord, which is that in theory, the energetic cord which connects the solar plexus of the physical body and the solar plexus of the astral body, and supposedly extends to the infinity. And once when this cord is broken, the soul can't return back to the physical body, and the physical body will die. So the entire concept of the silver cord was pushed in the last century, through esoterics and like Sylvan Mildon, like Michael Dorfman, which were all part of the secret societies. And they had difficult time how to explain to their mates how something can separate from the body. And if it's not attached to the rope or a chain, it will just fly away and it will never come back, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, because some people think something or someone else can jump into the body.
Yeah, I'm getting there. Understanding what the people need to know. So the thing is, the connection does exist, but it's in a far more profound way through something which is called phantom DNA. In other words, the physical DNA that we are observing for our physical body is just the tip of the iceberg. The consciousness literally controls the brain, which is the microchip of the biological computer that we call physical body. And through the DNA sequences, they're practically controlling, running everything. For the 4,000 years ago, all this majorly it's disconnected on purpose because there was genetic mutation, which I'll explain as we go. But all the metabolism, the liver, the heart, and everything is run automatically with our full awareness at this stage, which wasn't the case in the ancient times. But what I'm trying to say is the DNA that we are seeing, the physical part of the DNA is just the beginning. The DNA exists in far more profound way, and every body that we can utilize, it has an immaterial DNA antenna, which means some of the scientists touch base on the so-called phantom DNA, which means, for example, if you have a tube and then you notice how the photons are positioned in the tube, you get the air out. But then you put a human DNA there, and you will see that the photons will group exactly on the DNA where the DNA is positioned. And then if you remove the DNA, the physical DNA from the tube, instead of, let's say, photons moving back to its random position, scattered everywhere, instead of moving, they remain on the same DNA sequence. And on top of everything, what the mainstream science doesn't want to accept, but they have done it with a Black project, is that it can communicate with other DNA. Even it is proven that the physical DNA, its antenna, it can receive signals and it can also transfer signals, emit signals. So what I'm trying to say is that, like with a fingerprint, our consciousness has a unique energetic fingerprint through those immaterial DNA antennas. And it's like a wireless connection between the astral body and the physical body. The aliens use this in abundance when they pull the astral body out to do alien abductions and that kind of stuff, which are far more complicated, which we'll probably hopefully touch base a bit later. But what I'm trying to say is like an IP address. Every time the astral body goes out, it can float very close or it can float very far away, but it is still connected wirelessly to the same physical body. In the same sense, for example, when people experience near-death experience, they actually experience flying through a dark tunnel towards the light. But before they reach the light, they hear the voices of the doctors, come back, if you know what I mean.
Yes,
so there is a connection, what I'm talking about, through the photonic signature and through the astral itself, which leads the soul or the consciousness to its host. That's why you never end up in your waking up in your neighbor's body, so to speak. Regarding to the something coming into you, and sleeping paralysis can also be induced by the extraterrestrials in certain cases. Not very often, from what I have seen. I'm getting there. I understand. But in most cases, the sleeping paralysis is induced because of certain factors which occur during the dreaming time. Because the moment we black out, our consciousness departs the physical and the etheric body and projects on the astral plane. Depending on how big or how high the level of awareness exists, the consciousness can perceive dreams, lucid dreaming, or eventually, if it jumps further quantum jump, it can wake up on the astral plane. But it's all interconnected with orbs and other things that we will go through. So there are cases of possession which are documented, but they are extremely rare and doesn't justify the fear of astral projection. Let me put it this way. Instead of being limited with 5 senses, the astral projection offers a doorway to the universe, to the immaterial plane of existence, something which is far more profound. So what I'm trying to say, there is absolutely no fear of breaking the silver cord, because silver cord doesn't exist. I was able to see auric field around living beings and everything. I was looking particularly after the silver cord when I was really progressively pushing 7 hours per day, And there were times in my life, Michelle, when I didn't lose consciousness at all for weeks and weeks, which means when my physical day was over, I went to bed, and instead of blackness like most people experience, I was able to literally block the thinking process and produce the DMT in the pineal gland, which activated the mental screen. The vision started to come, and I was practically entering a remote viewing state, and I was seeing places on my mental screen, and the only thing that I needed to do is just to pull certain vision towards me, or push my consciousness towards the vision, and as soon as it passed through the portal of the mental screen, or the astral membrane, if you will, I was astrally projecting there. Or eventually, if I enter it, like a sleeping paralysis, I was moving out. So to get back to the point why I was not able to leave the planet at all, they said the moment when you enter the vibrational state, the sleeping paralysis, despite the fact that you have the access into the astral plane, don't exit yet. I said, what do you mean? They said, focus on something which is most divine, something which you resonates profoundly. And the next thing that I do, as I entered the sleeping paralysis, I did exactly what they were suggesting. As the energy was running, as the buzzing sound was literally so loud, I focus on a cosmic love. I open up my heart, so to speak, and then immediately, Michelle, it literally exploded.
Wow.
What Asian yogis referred as samadhi, a state of internal bliss, in a sense. That's exactly what I felt, a joy and a completeness, wow. And
Yes.
as that happened, because usually when I was entering the sleeping paralysis, there was like a darkish bluish emanations that I was perceiving. But
Mm-hmm.
this time it was like a rainbow light, that I was seeing that my aura is charged, and the energy was so much more powerful. The sound was literally killing me. I was barely able to sustain it, to bear
Mm-hmm.
it. And then in one point I felt it, that it's enough, and I departed the body. But listen to what is unreal here. Instead of, let's say, when people experience astral projection, let's say 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, there should be pitch black inside the room, right? It
Yes.
should be dark inside the room, and sometimes people experience difficulty of perception to high definition, if you will. They can
Yes.
still see, recognize things.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes part of the astral body goes out, the other part gets stuck, or you want to pass through the wall. Partly the astral body goes through, the other part doesn't want, or eventually you start flying, and after a couple of hundred of meters, you start to feel like you are losing concentration, like gravity is pulling you down, and then, oh, bam, you wake up physically, and the experience
Yes.
is gone.
Right.
So despite of all those astral bleeding effects that I have caught over the years, the entire room where I was sleeping was illuminated, because this vehicle was illuminating light, and that's why I called the vehicle self-luminescent vehicle. Everything was completely light, and I was able to see the entire high detail of my face, of my body, of everything else.
Mm-hmm.
With the genuine astral body, the default one, so to speak, you
Mm-hmm.
can't go too much until you are trained properly. But with this self-luminescent, I just wanted to pass through the balcony. I haven't even finished the thought in my consciousness. I already went down to the grass in front of the building, put my hands of this vehicle into fists, and I
Mm-hmm.
took off. And I
Mm-hmm.
passed the barrier that every time I was literally cut there, and I went
Mm-hmm.
into space.
Yeah.
So one thing is to see, the space from the International Space Station and similar, which is far, which is beautiful, but to experience for yourself is just amazing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Wow.
Immediate,
That
and
sounds
you
amazing.
can you
Yeah.
can you can imagine the adrenaline rush, if you will,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
immediately from my right side there were orbs of light that appeared, and they were very, very happy with the progress. But on the other hand, black discs and similar type of shape of UFO started to appear, and I started to vibrationally feel that something is not right, and I picked up a telepathic exchange that the dark discs are not happy with the orbs of light, in a sense that they have violated some form of treaty. And
Hmm.
in order to protect me, the orbs of light cut the astral projection, and I was immediately, shaken into my physical body. But
Hmm.
I was literally, on fire, if you know. That was the best experience that I have experienced till that time. And
Um,
yeah, go on.
no, the question with the orbs. Shady D.
Okay.
Sorry, Linda, I have a hard time just calling you that. But she says before you have an ET or an astral experience, do you ever notice orbs or shadows before this happens? Because when it happens with her, she goes, I usually have a high instance of like orb activity just before astral projection.
The
So do you see
the
it when you go
the
out, or do you see them before? Astral.
with the default astral body,
Yes.
you usually don't see much of the higher vibrational spectrum, but you can see shadows,
Mm-hmm.
which I also explained about them, in my books.
Okay.
And you can see certain types of orbs, because when we get to the point of dreams, I will explain how they
Mm-hmm.
practically function, because the dreams are not as people think they are, in my understanding.
Mm-hmm.
But orbs are visible to some degree, but if you depart the physical body, instead of with the default astral body, with the self luminescent body, you are able to see not just the orbs that you're seeing with your infrared or night vision cameras, but you're able to see the UFOs which are cloaked. For example, if you shoot with a normal light outside, you will not see much of activity. But if you start filming with on infrared or ultraviolet lenses, or if you use night vision camera, you will start to see from time to time objects which are appearing and reappearing, orbs and all kind of activity, if you know what I mean. So what I'm trying to say is that with a self-luminescent body, I was able to see that many of the UFOs are practically hiding. And that's where it didn't, it clicked to me that something is terribly not right here. There was a form of deception. And then when I started to, visit other people's homes, and seeing and following the orbs, what they're doing, and the alien abductions, the alien implantation, all that kind of stuff that I have seen, it literally devastated me for a while. I couldn't talk with almost anyone from what I was experiencing, because in those days, there was not much on the television. There was not much, in the literature. No. And the secret societies were keeping the information, completely hidden from the public. And then I turned out to the ETs and I asked them what's going on, and they said that this civilization that you're part of is not the first civilization on planet Earth.
That's true. Yeah.
There were others before yours, and there were certain things that took place in the ancient past that unfortunately resulted with the outcome and the situation that it's today. And I was learning more and more, especially in 2008, progressively, without not losing any consciousness at all. They were showing me fragments of our forgotten ancient history. And they said that almost all of it, what is in the scientific books about our ancient history, is wrong. And they said that the entire universe is full of life, and that we are just one species out of trillions out there. And they said that most of those species are far more evolved than us, and they have found far more profound ways to travel huge cosmic distances. They referred something which can be translated to English as a cosmic metro system. In other words, they have utilized the technology in a way that they are utilizing the stars and black holes as a cosmic metro system, which means they jump into the traversable wormhole system, which is interconnected through the entire universe, and they can literally travel at least 20 light years in 1 nanosecond, which is a huge distance. And there are many others that can even go even faster. But that's exactly the same what we have as a documented evidence from SOHO, from stereo ahead and behind, and from Solar Dynamic Observatory. We are seeing a huge cigar shapes, yes, or a donut shape coming very close to the sun. They're shooting a plasma beam directly into the sun, and then using a cymatic sound, they open a sun gate, and they can either jump into the hole and start traveling through this cosmic metro system, or they eventually pull out different objects out. It's just like a stopping on a bus station, if you know what I mean, but in a far more profound way. Yes. And they said that the first colonizers arrived in this part of the space about 70,000 years ago to about 50,000 years ago, which again doesn't make any reference with the accepted model of our ancient history. And they said that as soon as those colonizers came, they found a compatible environment into the planet. What they practically did, they used the technology to terraform the planets. from lifeless planetoids, if you know, and moons, they were able to produce hydrogen, oxygen, and all those necessary conditions for biological existence. And they built a huge cities, and also on the surface and underground. So most of the civilization of the colonizers in this solar system, as far as they explained to me, was focused on the planet that once was orbiting between Mars and Jupiter, which is about 2.8 astronomical units, from the sun. And unfortunately, this planet is destroyed now, and everything that is left is just the asteroid belt which exists between Mars and Jupiter. Mars was also inhabited, and Earth was also inhabited. And these first colonizers were called the Lemurians. So they built a tremendous cities on the surface, with huge, tall towers and bridges, with flying crafts, and everything was run through artificial intelligence and through thoughts. In other words, they were able to utilize from simple things like just opening doors, closing doors, lifting things, and so on and so forth, through their thoughts and similar things. So the quite amazing thing is that they also drilled underground, and as they have drilled underground, they created the kingdom what is known as Agartha. So, which means a vast network of underground cities interconnected with underground channels, if you will, right? And there is a reference in the ancient Buddhistic traditions for this. They were called the Arhats, or the enlightened ones, right? Or the supernatural beings which were acknowledgers of the supreme truth, untouched by evil, so to speak. So inside this underground world, Agartha, there was an inner sun that was bringing the heat and the light to these beings. And they were far more advanced. They were able to tune into meditative oneness. They were able to combine their feelings, their thoughts, their intellect, their energy. Practically what they were doing, they were tuning into one single consciousness. Instead of individual spark of consciousness, their technology was to literally fuse all those individual sparks into one, and which doesn't make any sense with the theory of Zachariah Sitchin, and that we actually came to be as slaves in mines from the Anunnaki, if you know what I mean. There's absolutely no reference. There's certain reference which is valid, which is mostly positioned, if you will, for the summer, and Mesopotamia, but that's about it, nothing else. And this civilization that came, they practically tried to evolve from the material into the immaterial, as far as I was explained. But unfortunately, in the universe, there are two forces of light and forces of darkness, which are opposing each other, if you will. It's just like one pushes towards the evolution, which is separation from the material existence by transcendenting or accumulating all the experiences of the matter, and the other one, which is the evil, which is pushes against this evolution. And then when this civilization that we refer as Lemurians, which had a basic center in the planet that was orbiting between Mars and Jupiter, were almost ready for the quantum jump from the material existence to the immaterial, and combining with the cosmic superconsciousness, which is kind of like a source consciousness in the universe, if you will. The negative forces started to send different extraterrestrials with elongated skulls, more arms, more legs, and similar things. And they arrived somewhere around from 25,000 years ago to 20,000 years ago, and they established a colony which was called Atlantis. And this colony had its peak around 15,000 years ago, and eventually it was influenced by the dark visitors also that had different agendas for the solar system. And they literally cause chaos and problems in the solar system, which eventually resulted with a global interplanetary conflict around 11,600 years ago. So about 12,000 years ago, the major conflict practically destroyed the planet that was once orbiting between the Mars and Jupiter, and that's where most of the Lemuria and Atlantis were destroyed. And because of the debris, the sunlight was blocked, and literally we enter ice age for a while. But that was cleared by the extraterrestrials that stayed, and the humanoids that also survived. The humanoids rebuilt the ancient world, and for about 7,000 years plus, there was a relatively peaceful coexistence. And that's the descendants of the Lemurians, which are the ancient Rama Empire.
Yes.
And then the ancient Egyptians are descendants from the Atlantis, and the pre-Columbian culture are also descendants from the Atlanteans. But this time the extraterrestrials were in charge. And what is even quite more disturbing is that around 4,000 years ago, another conflict occurred, which is described in Mahabharata and Ramayana, where vimanas or flying technologies were used against the gods. And in this local was more local on planet Earth, and it wiped out the most of the ancient humanoids. But what is even more disturbing is, as far as they have explained to me, that the ETs introduced a special kind of radiation weapon which caused a genetic mutation, which means they downgraded from the quadruple or triple DNA, or giants. There were a couple of body sizes at the time, if you will. There were half humanoids, half snake, which were called Nagas, and many other things, which had different expression of life at the time. And they downgraded the functionality to the DNA functionality to only 5 sense input, and the higher abilities of the consciousness, like telepathy, telekinesis, astral projection, levitation, materialization, psychometry, and that kind of effects of the force, completely disconnected. And
so the ancients were very, I guess this was just a normal thing for them. They were just highly evolved. So basically, you're saying they dumbed us up. Too.
Yes,
So
unfortunately, that's what they have shown me, and we are practically result of that conflict. And from there, for the last 4,000 years, we are literally species with amnesia. We don't understand or remember our past lives.
That's true.
We don't understand what happened on this planet and this solar system a long time ago, and how the extraterrestrials were involved. And all my life, I try to find the answers of which are bothering us all. Who we are, where did we come from, what are we doing here, where are we going, and that kind of stuff, if you will.
Yes.
So it's quite amazing. And from 4,000 years ago to now, the biology of life on planet Earth was downgraded, and the optimal genetic expression was lost. So for the listeners who are not familiar with the term optimal genetic expression, it is an expression that describes all the best what the DNA and RNA can provide. In other words, in the ancient times, the atmosphere was a lot bigger, which contained a lot more prana, which provided a DNA abundance. There was a gigantism. There were humanoids that were literally giants. And there is a fossil record to prove that. And there were different creatures. The descendants from the ancient Lemurians, they had like a spike which was growing on the top of the head. Different type of curly like hair, long ears, something which is depicted on the Asian Buddhistic sites, if you will, some which are thousands of years old. The other beings, they had a different bone structure, elongated skulls, which were mostly found also in Egypt and so on and so forth. And all that literally was devastated. What I'm trying to say is that after 4,000 years, people were running naked in the woods with sticks and arrows, and those lights were appearing and disappearing on the sky, and they have depicted them on certain, let's say, caves and similar things. But humans, relatively, in other words, what happened is that the hyper intelligent alien species are here for a very long time, but for the last 4,000 years, they have turned the planet into practically a laboratory zoo, in my understanding. And they are conducting alien abduction programs, alien implant programs, alien hybridization programs, mind control, plasma orb surveillance, hacking and full control of the astral plane, and blocking the awakening process of planet Earth itself. And
so, do they tell you why that they would not want to see the species evolve?
Not all the ETs are negative. The one that I mostly get involved is the one which is responsible for the genuine crop circle phenomenon. Not all crop circles are fake and made by humans, and there is plenty of evidence documented in my books. So the thing is, after the conflict, most of the positive species left the system.
Right.
But some stayed, and those that stayed live in parallel to some degree with us on planet Earth, on Mars, and the 4 moons of Jupiter. And mostly I have communicated 2008 with them, and they have literally translated all the complex geometries and what they're referring. They were referring about the flower of life auric field, which can regain the genetic material, if you will, the genetic functionality, by utilizing the chi force into our auric field, using a mental power that can, let's say, stretch it or push it like a balloon into a complete sphere, and then extend it into another 18 spheres, or 19 altogether in total, including the central one. And then if you apply a star tetrahedron in the center, because one tetrahedron, it's an isolator of charge, that's why you have to have two, like a plus and minus, if you will, or different polarities in order to electrical circuit to work. Once when you activate the field, you practically create a point of singularity in your energy field, a mini black hole where your individual consciousness can tune into the source consciousness. And you can start downloading data and visions and information about your past, what is your purpose here, and that kind of stuff, a very, very high quality input, if you will. Or eventually you can establish a contact with the same extraterrestrials which are responsible for the genuine crop circle phenomena. So just to mention even further, that the modern humans, they become more aware that we are not alone during the World War II. To some degree, World War I, but World War II was clear as a day. They called them the Foo Fighters at the time. We were seeing UFOs just appearing, disappearing, bolts of light, coming and going. Sometimes the Air Force engaged into a chase, which ended up, tragically, and similar things. And then, like, from disappearance from the Bermuda Triangle and other places, the Devil Triangle on the other side of the planet, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
And at this point, they notice that these crafts are far more sophisticated. Their maneuvering capabilities, and they go directly into the volcanic openings. They go directly into the deep ocean through the hydrothermal vents, and they enter the cavities inside the Earth crust, where their bases were. But at the time, the U.S. government and the military, they decided that the media and the government should be used to cover the entire UFO and alien problem. So they started pushing towards a cover-up. While in parallel, there were special teams of very highly intelligent people, experts in different fields that were working on the topic, if you will, on the subject. So a shadow government was practically formed to study and investigating the sightings and the close and encounters, if you will, you know. But the progress came from very, very surprising occurrence. It turned out that some of the UFOs are very vulnerable to radar beams, you know, because they try to take UFOs down with ammunition and you know, classic you know, forces, you know, if you will, but they couldn't scratch them. But unfortunately, some radar beams were affecting the guidance systems of some of the UFOs. Because the particles were interacting with the highly sophisticated nanotechnological fiber optics guidance systems. Put it in simple words, the flying information inside the some of the UFOs is sent through the light. So as it sends through these light particles, you know, when the directed radar particles are focused towards the UFO, it messes with the guidance systems, and these UFOs are starting to fall down. And as they start to fall down, they eventually crash. And then, just give me a second. Excuse me. And then eventually a team travels to the spot, recovers eventual technology, and much of the technology was so sophisticated for the scientific minds of the 50s, 60s, 70s, you know, 80s to some degree. But as far as I was informed, from the 90s onwards, a tremendous progress was accomplished. Much of the recovered alien technology was operated through alien artificial intelligence, something which we trying to mess around today, and many other technologies. They contain nanotechnologies, laser beam scanning technologies, plasma energy technologies, and similar stuff. You know. So what I'm trying to say, as we progress to the present day, now we have a shadow government that has possession of so many extracted alien implants. All the frequencies are measured, which are used by the certain extraterrestrial species and to control. So you said previously, Michelle, regarding to why would they not want a human species to evolve? Because the dominant species that was here around 12,000 years ago and responsible for the conflict literally wanted to downgrade the living forms into this level that we are having now in order to exploit us. So the human females are exploited for the hybridization programs. There is so much evidence around the world people don't want to talk about, but it is reality that there are many occurrences of the miscarriages with the unwanted pregnancies. And in many cases, we are talking about mysterious vanishing of the fetus between the week 20. In other words, a female goes to the doctor, and the fetus is the embryo is all alive and well. After the 7th, 8th, 9th, or 10th week, or 12th or 13th week, it's mysteriously disappearing.
Yes, that's right.
So the famous case of Giovanna Poda, if you remember that one, the lady from Italy,
yes,
she was impregnated about 18 times from extraterrestrial beings, and in one occasion on a private television, she also agreed to do abortion where a reptoid form was taken out of her body. And with her mobile phone, she was able to photograph some of those alien beings and alien crafts, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And she even went to Japan, where the scientists were examining the alien implant that was discovered in her brain, and also the powder substance that was also how should I put it, like a marks on her body that were visible on ultraviolet radiation, if you know what I mean, you know. So
Yeah.
it's quite remarkable. And regarding to the alien implants, you know, those are nanotechnological devices, right? But they're not broadcasting in this electromagnetic spectrum, but they're using the scalar wave technology. I don't know if listeners are familiar with it. So when we use our technological devices, you know, to measure the frequencies, we are practically picking up a radio wave, which is actually a harmonic. And which is even far more sophisticated is that these nanotechnological devices are so tiny, so small, that the scanning electron microscopy showed that the nerve cells actually grow into the membrane, which is circulating this alien implant, and they form an interface between the nervous system of the abductee and the electronics of the implant itself, you know. And depending of which species is doing the alien abduction, the alien implant, as mentioned at the beginning, can be metallic, non-metallic, or biological. The biological ones sometimes, as far as the Dr. Roger Lear and Steve Coburn research have shown, they can move below the skin, which is far more difficult to track them, if you know what I mean.
No, absolutely. And then
Yeah.
everything grows over it. You probably don't even detect it most of the time. What is your thought on the theory that the government abducts people and puts implants into them with this
So
alien technology?
that's a very, 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 very great question. Thank you so much for that, Michelle.
Oh,
So
pleasure.
when the shadow government discovered that people have been taken and that they have been implanted with nanotechnological devices, with alien implants, and that those alien implants are practically like an operative system inside the biology of the human body. And it's sending information in a form of signals to someone, and that someone can also send information and control the human subject, can implement thoughts and so on and so forth. They started to remove some of the objects. When they started to remove the objects, they were studying which frequencies are used. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And they were curious to see if the alien abductee, once when the alien implant is extracted, will the aliens come back to take that same person again, or they can't take it, you know, because usually they thought that if the alien implant is removed, the aliens will not be able to track the same human person, the human subject, if you know what I mean, which is, how should I put it, ridiculous. They have technology which is probably a million years ahead of us, if you know what I mean.
Yes, absolutely.
And they started to put different implants using nanotechnology. Everything that we are seeing from DARPA, NSA, you know, the operative system, and now even I don't want to go in that direction, but with the new vaccines, we are talking about smart nanotechnologies. And this shadow government literally started to put implants in those abductees to see how the aliens will react. And as far as I was informed, there were a couple of cases that when this abductee took the government, the alien implant of the government, was taken by the ETs again, their implant was removed and another alien implant was put in. It's just quite bizarre. But what
no
I'm trying
kidding.
to say, so the shadow government, to the best of my knowledge, you know, they started to progress even further, and now through the 5G satellites, which it's not just for us, you know, it's also for tracking the alien traffic, if you will, and the UFO traffic, which is not visible, which sometimes they were using chemtrails, by the way, which, if you like, I can touch base a bit later.
Sure.
To detect. They're literally able to from satellite to detect when certain alien implants start broadcasting certain frequencies. And like on a computer screen, which they have a huge screen, like a 10 meter per 5 meters, so on and so forth, you can see the entire continent or the entire, globe, and you can see when certain implant switches on and switches off. And then through the project Preserve Destiny, which through Dan Sherman, he actually spent 12 years in U.S. Air Force, but he also worked covertly for NSA for 3 years as a part of this project that I mentioned. There are certain military individuals that are trained how to communicate with the extraterrestrials, which are doing most of the abductions. And he started to receive the coordinates of the abduction. He started to receive the time of the abduction, how long the abduction took place. But he also started to receive a very disturbing messages like potential to recall, residual pain, nerve response, and similar stuff. And that's where he freaked out and he left the military because he felt betrayed that the US government, and it's not just the US government, there is a shadow government which operates internationally. It's not telling people, observing people as little children, not telling them the truth, what is going on. But covertly, they're fully controlling, the data and information that they're getting from the satellites, and it's all classified, if you will. But what I'm trying to say is that it is true. The governments, especially now with the vaccines, in my opinion, when the RNA vaccine is in, we are talking about hydrogel full of nanoparticles or a smart dust, which the DARPA was working for a long time. And by the way, again, this is back engineer alien technology. If you know what I mean. It started from there.
There's a lot of people who theorize the same.
It's going to be an operative system, and once when it's in, with the human technology, you can't get it out. That's the problem with. So another thing about the detection, which I want to touch base. Chemtrails had many purposes. One of the purpose that they were utilizing is that detection of the UFO traffic, because in many occasions, the UFOs collide with the airplanes, and sometimes the airplanes fall down, and then you have like airplane crash investigations on History Channel, National Geographic, and so on and so forth. Giving a story how part of the engine malfunctioned and so on and so forth. While you have a huge bumps, on the surface of the plane, obviously evidence of a collision with something, if you know what I mean. So what I'm trying to say is that the human air traffic is very dense, it's vast. It was very difficult for them to track the UFO traffic in parallel. So what they did, they used the chemtrails and the SBIRS, which is a global surveillance infrared system, especially run by the US government and NATO, which scans the entire area on infrared spectrum. So in other words, when a UFO passes at very high speed and it has like a plasma shield around it, it agitates the molecules of the heavy metal particles in the chemtrails, and they start to glow or get excited. As soon as that happens on the infrared satellite surveillance systems from space, it indicates where the UFO appears. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And that gives the shadow government more or less accurate picture, at least on that plane of existence, how many airplanes are there and how many UFOs are flying there.
I have a question. There's a few going through. I'm just trying to keep with what you're actually discussing. What about faster healing times? Is this alien or government experiments? Faster healing times, government or ET?
Look, that's also a good question. Regarding to the extraterrestrials, they know the biology. They can heal and replace any organ, anything which is a problem with a human body. They can literally detach a human arm and put it back together without even noticing. And regarding to the human efforts for fast healing, we have to understand there are two classes of people. One is 1%, the super rich elite that has the access to technologies which are far profound. And then we have 99% of the so-called general population, including us, which has access to only limited resources and limited research. And unfortunately, this 1% of population, they have the devices, the beds, if that the listener is referring to, that can literally regenerate the cells by energetic boost, if you will, through certain particles and so on and so forth. So in a very, very similar sense, when you take the technology which is taking a tissue from a healthy or a sample from a healthy tissue, and then putting into the area of the body where the tissue has been damaged, then the tissue heals. So this can be done by the photonic particle beam, if you know what I mean. So they have the technology. Are they going to share with us? In my personal understanding, no.
No, you're probably correct.
Unless you're in the part of that 1% of the super rich elite, if you know what I mean.
What's your take on blood types? Rh positive versus Rh negative, and ET. Do you think it's ET intervention? Do you think there's something about that that attracts them, or do you think they're responsible for it since it's something that's not from here?
First of all, we have to all understand that these biological vehicles that we are using, they have different blood types, and most of it is just genetically engineered 4,000 years ago.
Right.
Why I'm saying this? Because if you search the population 4,000 years ago, the number of the population, it's about 28 million. We're talking about 28 million worldwide.
Yes.
But as the 1000 AD came, then 2000 AD, and now we have 2020, we have a population that has spread about 7.8 billion. And those blood types, from the original source were intermixed in one way or another, and then we have alien abductions, which are also messing with the genetics. So it's a kind of a mess, if you will. There is absolutely no strict rule, in my opinion, if it's Rh negative or Rh positive, that should be a significant difference, So another thing which is also important to mention, many people come to me and they said, look, all this is for our great good, and the Pleiadians will come and save us, But one thing doesn't seem right, Michelle. During the World War I, 40 million people died. Yeah. During the World War II, 75 million people died. Not to mention Vietnam, not to mention Cambodia, Iraq, Afghanistan.
Oh, look at all the ancient wars throughout history.
Yeah. Great. So where were those Pleiadians to intervene and to stop the slaughter? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I completely agree with you.
It's not true. What I'm saying is not to deceive people, but to bring the truth. Sometimes the truth is not comfortable, but I was searching for truth all my life.
Do you think the whole aspect of the Pleiadians coming to the rescue, do you think that's sort of a new age movement?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Because you have personalities out there, they just approach to you, don't jeopardize my aura.
Yes.
And there's absolutely no communication with them. They are ignorant to what is happening. And what is happening is that we are one family, 7.8 billion, and we are
I agree.
literally in the same boat, which is called planet Earth.
Yes,
And
I agree.
we have to understand what is happening. We have to awake, and in order to do that, we have to learn what took place thousands of years ago, how the extraterrestrials were involved, what was happening, how things got to this stage,
Hmm.
and then we will understand why things are as they are. If you know
Hmm.
what I mean,
No, I
so
agree with you. I
it's
agree with you.
it's it's quite remarkable. But look, it's a fragment of people. Most of the people, they are open. They have
Hmm.
open mind, so to speak, and they are ready for the information. The only
Hmm.
way is through self development, to changing our ways, to move into more moral aspect of existence, if you will, to regain our potentials.
I think
The
it's
only
difficult when you're thinking where the world is at right now with this virus and how everybody is sort of being suppressed in a way. And of course media plays a big part in that. They instill so much fear. I think that people, they're fed up, and yes, they want, you have a lot of people that are saying, well, maybe this is going to be the year of contact, and maybe this is going to be a year of differences. But I think a lot of people are scared and they just don't want to veer away from what is considered normal to them.
I absolutely agree with you, Michelle. Cognitive dissonance, it's a very very common thing nowadays. So
Yes,
what is happening is that, let me put it this way: the people that are doing this are the 1% of the
yes,
global elite.
yes.
And if one starts to research the fourth industrial, revolution, the
Hmm.
Great Reset, the Global Economic
Oh,
Forum,
yes, yes,
they will
yes,
see exactly the guidelines. The media, in my personal opinion, most of it is completely corrupted.
yes.
And the political establishment, unfortunately, is controlled by the Freemasons. 168 countries have signed, to the best of my knowledge, a contract for the New World Government.
Mm-hmm.
And their basic goal is one world government.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. They don't
Do you
want.
think that do you think that needs to happen though? I mean, we're looking at all these extraterrestrial species. Is there such a thing as a galactic council? If there is that why we have to be, like you say, we are all we are all one family. We are earthlings, basically, from planet Earth. Do you think that we should be getting rid of all this division and putting it as one to become more with a galactic collective, so to speak? Do you think it's
As
imminent?
as mentioned, Michelle, where was that Galactic Federation during the World War One, Two,
Yeah.
Cambodia, Iraq, and so on and so forth? Something
Mm-hmm.
doesn't add up, if you know what I mean. If they
Yes.
are
Yeah.
so concerned to help us, do you know what I'm saying? They were
Mm-hmm.
not there, and they are not here. They were flying during the World War Two. They were calling them Foo Fighters and so on and so forth, but they didn't intervene. So what I'm trying to say is that there are federations of worlds out there in the galaxy, which I'm
Yes.
aware of, and many of them are very positive. But
Yes.
in this system, we have a unique situation. Type 2 class extraterrestrials and occasional visitation of Type 3 class
Mm-hmm.
uh,
It's
are
very archonic.
controlling the solar system. Most of the controllers are residing around the Saturn system. Hubble Space Telescope and other means were detecting objects that are about 50,000 kilometers long, cigar-shaped UFOs with about 4 kilometers wide. So imagine this, Michelle. We are talking about object controlled, which is 50,000 kilometers by 4 kilometers. What can we do with our technology,
Nothing.
realistically?
Nothing.
So this those controllers literally destroyed with one plasma beam the planet that was orbiting between Mars and Jupiter almost 12,000 years ago. And that devastated Mars. Earth was luckily far enough to escape the full devastation. And but now Earth is an elaborate zoo, unfortunately. So we've been used in many ways. There are positive ones, as I mentioned, that I communicate with, that are trying to help, but we have to awake.
Mm-hmm.
we have to awaken huge masses.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, with the last developments on planet Earth with this so-called pandemic and using nanotechnologies inside the injections, things are not looking very bright in my personal opinion.
No, and they're moving very quickly with it. And
Yes.
I mean, there are people who think that it's not quick enough, but it's
Their
pretty quick.
agenda, their
Yeah.
agenda, Michelle, it's 2030. It's called Agenda 2030, and they plan to transform our world till 2030. They will introduce more lockdowns, more measures, divide people as much as they can by media and by the health system, which they have all in their control. And unfortunately, either people will wake up and stand up and stop this, or they will change this world in the years to come.
Yeah, it's sad. Well, we have to think of future generations. So I think
Yeah.
somewhere along the line, whatever the case may be, definitely an awakening of some sort needs to take place. Linda had a question. You were speaking about, giants. She's asking about the Kandahar giants. Are they Nephilim?
Look, in ancient times, from the
Mm.
time of Lemuria and Atlantis,
Mm-hmm.
as mentioned, when they populated the planets in the solar system, the conditions were favorable for gigantism.
Yes.
So, which means the evidence, the Smithsonian Institute, it's practically responsible, in my personal opinion, for the
Mm-hmm.
biggest cover-up of the giants in the ancient times.
Yes.
The New York Times during the 1800s and early 1900s, they were publishing reports of giants that were found in different areas of United States and worldwide.
Oh, the Smithsonian hid them
Yeah,
all.
yeah, I know. So it hit them all, and
Mhm.
most of them were burned and destroyed to
Yes.
suppress the evidence, because as long as the general population is confused, doesn't understand what is happening, it's easily to manipulate.
Correct.
And at least that's my understanding of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the Nephilim, regarding to the giants, some of those humanoids were positive, some were negative.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that were negative, obviously, they interacted with the females from the lower size species, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
or how should I put it, lower size females,
Yes.
and there is some truth to it, but not too extreme that we came
It's more
from them.
biblical.
It's more biblical, if you will. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So the life was downgraded completely, as mentioned. That giant. So now we have the size of the birds have shrunk, the size of the insects have shrunk, the sea life have shrunk, the dinosaurs have shrunk into the reptoids, and
Mm-hmm.
from a couple of body sizes of humanoids. Now
Mm-hmm.
we have the more or less the standard size and height of the humans.
Mm-hmm.
Female or a male with five senses and with higher abilities of the consciousness disconnected. The intellect is still running,
Yes.
but if those powers are successful, that intellect will be controlled by artificial intelligence very soon, which again it will be in the limited frequency range, in my opinion.
And with that said, we're going to definitely, that might be a good place to pick up when you return in May. We are
Yeah.
at the top of our show hour being, we're done. We're done. Darn it. It just went by so quick. But I want to thank you for coming on the show. It's just been a wealth of information. I wanted to give you absolutely as much time to talk, because your knowledge is just like amazing.
Thank
And
you so much.
oh, you're welcome. My pleasure. Thank you. The chat room has just been going crazy, and I'm sure you guys in chat should be sending in these questions in advance. I think it would be helpful. And yeah, and I'm really looking forward to having you back on, and I'll be in touch before that also
Awesome.
because yeah, I definitely want to work with you a little bit on some some things and
Sounds good.
build
Sounds
up
good.
some material.
Michelle, it was real pleasure to chat with you, and
Thank you.
I thank you and the entire team of the radio and the audience for listening. And
Thank you.
hopefully we will get together again in the future and share some more interesting,
Oh,
stuff.
I have no doubt. I have no doubt. I will be in touch. Absolutely. Thank you.
No problem. All the best, Michelle. Take
And
care.
you as well. Have a good afternoon.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye.
Well, we've come to another end of an awesome segment, and I can really say it was an awesome segment here on the Outer Realm. So thank you to all who tuned in, and of course our very special guest, Pane Andov. Thank you, and of course our producer Joe Montaldo, who has been behind the scenes. So please remember once again, stop by United Public Radio YouTube channel, subscribe, check out some of the archives, and grab yourself a membership. See the stuff you can't find in archive normally. So join me tomorrow night as Mr. Preston Dennett joins into the Outer Realm. We will be discussing UFO encounters. You're not going to want to miss a segment. So thank you and good night.